Hi, this is Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
I'm Pat Nevin.
I'm Mason Mount. You're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, your host, Brandon, Joe, my co-host, Nick, and Dan. And gentlemen, we are ready to walk into the weekend like we own the damn club, Nick. Ladies and gentlemen, Chelsea with Lukaku.
Yeah, it's a whole different kind of feeling, isn't it? It's what I was listening to the Chelsea Fancast, as I try and do every week, and I think they summed it up after the Arsenal review, where they were like, it just kind of gives you confidence. It's a weird feeling to have a guy who you're like, oh, he's gonna score. Yeah, of course. It's nice. I haven't had that feeling in a long time, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the havoc that old Big Rom's gonna have against maybe a little bit of a lackluster Liverpool defense.
Well, that's what we're here for, Dan, is the Liverpool match preview. But before we get into that, Chelsea's Champions League draw and awards were announced today. So we're definitely going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. Then we can talk about Liverpool. And then we have another Chelsea youth update. And we played matches. So there's actual matches to talk about. But before we get into that, sir, run us through this unbelievable list of Apple 5-star reviews. The people want to hear their name yelled.
Well, we had 21 last time, 22 this time. We want to thank Avo Eggs with the gave each of us a player, assigned us each a player. Brandon is Mendy, I'm Kante, Nick is Rudiger, and Joe Tweeds gets Mason Mount, all for individual reasons, but that was nice to see. Luke Blah from the U.S., SS and Alpha from the U.S., Andrew Keeping Tahoe Blue from the U.S., Mel from the U.S., Mike from the U.S., Big C42 from the U.S., Country Brit from the U.K., Abolitious Z's from Nambia. We had Jack Taterhead, his third review from his work phone. Really appreciate that.
What's up, bro?
Woody Wood 88 from the U.S. Swansea J CFC from the U.S. AC Fru from the U.S. Ned Christmas, 2 S's, from Australia. CC Kuhn from the U.S. Burner Dad, who's also a part of our Patreon, who is tooling us in our Fantasy Premier League. He's
Doesn't
in
take
place.
much with me, bro. Okay.
Cactus Critch 12 from the U.S. Steve Wilkie from the UK called us Popper Chels for the Portugal trip that we took to win the Champions League. It was all thanks to us. Aiden King 9 from the U.S. John Edmond from the U.S. Maximo Quino from the U.S. and Akash 1912 from India. Completely international, completely pitbull, Mr. 305. This was a wonderful list of reviews to read through, and we can't thank you enough for leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate it.
And
Need 23 next time.
And just think about that, like this community all about Chelsea from the entire world, which is super cool. So first thing we've got is the UCL draw, right? The Champions League group stage draw did happen, intermixed with some highlights, some awards. We should start with the draw itself. We don't need to go into all of them. Look, you all know by now, but Chelsea were in Group H, as our friends across the as Brana. Ivanovic was Malcolm. Oh my gosh.
Dude, he was so stone cold.
But what were they expecting from him? But it was good to see them respect the champions and bring in some alumni for that. Anyways, Group H, as it stands, Chelsea in what is it, Pot A, C,
Pot
A,
A,
whatever it is.
Yep.
All right, Pot A, Juve coming in Pot B, Zenit Pot C, and Malma Pot D. So scale 1 to 10, how are you feeling about the group draw? Nick, bring it in.
8 out of 10. I mean, when you look at, I think Group B is officially the group of death with Atleti, Liverpool, Porto, and Milan. They are that could have been us, and it wasn't. So the fact that we got Malmo and Zenit, and potentially a weakened Juventus, as Cristiano Ronaldo apparently is leaving this week, I feel pretty good about our chances to get out of the group. 8 out of 10. And I would also mention that everyone pointed out the last time we won the Champions League, who did we have in the Champions League the following season? Juventus.
Huh. Well, all right. Dan, you took a different angle. You gave a strong score, but you have some sympathy mixed in.
Yeah, I give it 9 out of 10, particularly with the Ronaldo news of him leaving Juventus. Most
For
likely
Manchester City.
Yeah, which is just wild. This transfer window. TikTok. Our
Mbappe
tic-tac.
to Real Madrid. I mean, shit is popping off here at the end.
It's been quite a day. This was a very interesting Thursday to have all of this news. Like, I mean, we've lived in our sheltered Chelsea bubble of transfers where we were just waiting for Lukaku to happen and super hyper fixated on that transfer to go through. And afterwards, it's really felt like okay, well, if other things happen, it'll be great, but I don't feel the impending doom that a transfer needs to occur for us. And so it's left me very relaxed. And now I'm watching all this chaos unfold, and we're like in the center of the storm. We're just watching all of the wind swirling around. Houses have been uprooted, trees are flying in the air, and we're just watching. We're watching because we're okay.
And the score, I don't remember if you gave it.
No, because I was a little distracted there, but I gave it a 9 out of 10.
It's all right.
The reason why I would give it a 9 is because every location that Chelsea will be playing in right now is currently in the UK's red list. So if we think about travel situations for fans and supporters, that is, to me, is always kind of like a top of mind element. And so knowing that, I think in Sweden right now, it's only for like Sweden nationals with like, maybe who have a spouse who is of another nationality. Russia is in the red zone, a red list for them. Italy is in the red list. And so like all of the hoops that they're going to have to jump through to get a ticket, if they're even allowed. Like, we don't even necessarily know if some of these countries might say, you know what, we don't necessarily want
UEFA's got a lot on their
5,000,
hands.
7,000.
They've already talked about there might not even be away fans at matches. They've talked about potentially going to neutral sites. I mean, it's an absolute mess, and we will figure it out soon, Dan, because of the FIFA international break and what the hell is going to happen with that. I think that'll kind of lend its hand to what they're going to do. But
we'll finish top. We'll finish top of the group.
Correct.
No problem.
I put 7 out of 10, and I'm only saying that because I want to be greedy. Like, if I got to pick. Which, by the way, I think the champion should get to pick their group. I think that's only fair after you win it. But look, if you got to like pick the group, I think you could have picked a little bit better, especially out of Pot B. And I think you definitely, Pot C is fine with Zenit. What gets interesting is apparently Tino Andrin was looking at going to Zenit on loan because apparently one of Tuchel's buddies is the coach there. So it's very similar to Billy going to Norwich. They like this style of play and it matches Tuchel. So that could be interesting. But of course, I have no worries that we're going to advance. The 7 out of 10 is not due to difficulty. It's due to me being just greedy and obnoxious. But beyond the draw, the Blues already picked up some awards as well. So Nick, I'm going to give you the first one. And then Dan, we'll let you get into your own avatar.
Look, the first one is UEFA Men's Coach of the Year. The voting of the top 3 coaches went Thomas Tuchel, number 1. Yes, obviously. 378 points. Roberto Mancini with 292 for guiding Italy to the Euro Championship. And there seems to be a third option that scored far too many points. Pep Guardiola with 198. I believe that's Tuchel's son, Pep Guardiola. So
it apparently the English national team is rated below Manchester City, Mr. Southgate.
Huh.
I think Mancini being second is totally accurate.
Yeah.
Again, like you have the 2 winning coaches. Clearly, they just rate the Champions League over the Euros, as we'll see throughout this entire voting process.
Yep.
All right, Dan, first player award.
Yeah, well, it was for the Champions League midfielder of the season, and Jorginho came in third with 149 points. Kevin De Bruyne came in second with 197. And of course, the man, the smile, the myth, the legend, he covers everything that is not water on earth. He covers. It's N'Golo Kante with 263 points.
N'Golo Kante.
And we'll get into that. I just would like to say, Nick, that is how you work from bottom to top and build suspense. So thank you. I'll take this next one as it is goalkeeper of the year. It just happened to fall in order. Number 3, Thibaut Courtois, 96 points.
First of all, how did Donnarumma not make the top 3?
Correct.
What are they doing?
Huge complaints here, especially with Courtois getting third. Ederson, 154 points in. The man of the hour, Edouard Mendy, 286 points. Not even close, but honestly, what could you expect? And Nick, the award of the day.
the award for most ridiculous award goes to apparently men's player of the year. Men's player of the year, the entire year, all competitions, participation award. Here we go. Apparently, N'Golo Kante is the third best player in UEFA. Okay? Sure. Kevin De Bruyne is apparently the second best player in UEFA. And the best player in UEFA is Jorginho. 175, 167, 160. It's a relatively close race there at the end. So before I go into what I think my issue with the award is, let's just give praise to Jorginho. He did win the Euros. He did win the Champions League. He played an integral role in both of these teams, clearly scored important penalties, and certainly once Thomas Tuchel came into Chelsea, really upped his game through the end of the year. That is me being serious and sincere. He is a good player. He really is turned in form. Cool. You guys want to praise him? Go for it.
Look, I think, to me, seeing either Chelsea player win this would have been great, right? And so if Kante won it, great. Jorginho wins it, fantastic. Kevin De Bruyne finishing second just is really weird to me, considering that. And again, I think maybe from just the award standpoint is, you're also thinking about there's the Euros plus the Champions League, right? And I would argue to say that, of course, Kante was integral in our Champions League run, maybe at a higher level than Jorginho was.
Say.
But with the Euros and Italy's campaign to get there, Jorginho played a very vital role to that team. I know he was never a man of the match in that campaign, Nick. I know that there's a lot of caveats we can throw in there, but he was part of a team that won the Euros, completely turned around that entire team. And, I just think in that sense, it's a credit to him. I actually had the interview afterwards where he talked about the fact that the hate fuels him. I don't know. I love people who feed on that energy. It's fantastic. I want more people with that type of mentality in our squad and our team. And so hats off.
I like that.
Bro, hate is a renewable energy source for Jorginho. That shit is unending. So we're probably going to see another great season for him.
We need to do some research with him. We could use it to fix the instead of a green plan, a new green deal. We can just ask Jorginho to get the science behind hate
stand
conversion.
up one of those hate fueled power plants. All right, I just need to do a quick thing here. This award makes no sense to me, and I think needs to be scrapped in favor of a new award. Okay. Here's my issue. Jorginho had a great season, right? The stats are there. Had the most passes, most touches, whatever, most progressive, whatever. He had a great season. Never was the man of the match in a Champions League game or in a Euros game. N'Golo Kante is the best midfielder in the Champions League, right? Gianluigi Donnarumma is the player of the Euros. So in my mind, it would have made logistical and logical sense if either N'Golo Kante or Donnarumma would have been player of the season, because they were the best at that tournament. Thus, they should have naturally ascended to that place. The fact that Donnarumma gets left off the goalkeeper list altogether is a fucking crime. And then I don't understand how Jorginho leapfrogs De Bruyne and Kante into the first place role. Look, I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's got this award. I hope it fuels him. I hope he has the best season of his career. My brain doesn't compute, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm being lame. I'm raining on the parade.
Well, Donnarumma wouldn't have been eligible, right? Because he was AC Milan last year, and AC Milan wasn't in the Champions League. So,
but if we're looking at Euros,
well, but those individual ones are specific to the Champions League, right? It's
right.
a
Okay.
UEFA
Yeah, I see
Champions
what you're saying.
League. That's why he's not on that.
You don't get to mix that one in.
Big,
that makes
Big
sense.
Rom won the Europa League Player of the Season actually for this last season. No, 2 years ago they didn't have one. Huh? Interesting. I get it. Again, Jorginho very polarizing. You're saying he's not the best player on either team, yet he won the best player overall. Totally understand that. I think a lot of people are going to jump at it just as the opportunity to jump. But at the end of the day, Chelsea sweeping almost every single award. We missed out on defender, which you could question since we did set clean sheet record. I know we got goalkeeper, but Ruben Dias got Defender of the Year, and Erling Haaland got Forward of the Year. Those are the only two we missed out on.
We wouldn't have had a forward, but Defender, you could have made a case.
I definitely think so. They're probably like, too many Chelsea players and managers.
So my fault on the Donnarumma in earlier award piece. Well, that's a correction on the record. Still, I don't get the logic of the award.
All right. I would just remind everyone that this is very normal for Chelsea to be in these awards, having won goalkeeper on 4 different occasions, 3 from Czech, now 1 from Mendy. We've won the defender award on 3 occasions. John Terry. We've won the midfield award 2 occasions, Lampard and now N'Golo Kante. And then the coach of the season for the first time and player of the year for the first time. Who would have thought in Chelsea's history of players that
Tuchel and Jorginho.
Jorginho Freyo is the one who won it. And again, Tuchel was in charge for less than 6 months when he won that prestigious award. So
imagine what he can win in a full season.
Well, like I think, Yan tweeted that out. His trophy per month record is insane at this point. We're gonna take a real quick break before we get into the Liverpool match. Before we do, Dan, we have some friends on Patreon that we should shout out as well.
Yeah, we want to thank Sean for signing up with a yearly sub, getting that wonderful discount as well, 10% off when you do that. And new subs from the Lunch Society, Zach, Jamie, Jose, Marlene, Kyle, Matt, and Adam all joining in at a monthly tier. So we appreciate you guys supporting the pod, getting into the Discord. And look, transfer conversation's been great. There's a horticulture thread now because people want to talk about plants. So, look, it's wonderful. It's good stuff.
My plants are thriving right now. Just need y'all to know that.
All right. Well, hey, we're going to take a quick break again. Thanks to these sponsors for financially supporting the show. We'll be right back. All right. Really quick, before we get into the Liverpool preview, we just want to remind everybody we have more pods before the end of the transfer window. And first up, we're going to do Liverpool match review with Naz. So Nisar Kinsella from Goal.com is going to be joining us. We've got Matt Law's final transfer pod of the window on deadline day. Can you believe how much we had to pay to get him on that day? Potentially going to be dropping another Kings Road episode next week. Chelsea women's season preview. All right, get it going, and maybe an emergency pod or two. It sounds like there's going to be some moves happening in the next 72 hours. But let us go ahead and touch on the foes in front of us. Dan, we're going to be playing Liverpool. All right, so top of the table clash. What do we need to know heading into this?
Well, not even top of the table right now. It's West Ham. West Ham on top at the moment.
Top-ish of the table.
It's top four battle. Look, Liverpool are coming into this having played... Look, we have played similar style teams. They played Burnley and Norwich. They won 2-0 at home against Burnley. They won 3-0 against Norwich away. And they're coming in with a healthy defense. Virgil van Dijk is back. Last time when we played them last season, they didn't have...
Robertson's not back.
Robertson is healthy. He's confirmed to be fit.
Might want to check your FPL team.
Matip is healthy, and then they've got Trent Alexander-Arnold. They're going to play back 4. I think the thing to keep in mind is the Klopp does not adapt to other managers, right? He is not going to change his lineup for us because we were playing a back 3. And so, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting game. I think in general, they've got a side that is capable of scoring, capable of keeping clean sheets. And this is truly the first real test, Nick, I think, for either side. When you think about the Arsenal and Palace match, were really a warm-up for us, just like Norwich and Burnley were warm-ups for Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually hard to figure out who played worse teams, which is funny.
We did.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, look, I mean, this is... I hate this game this early in the year, actually, if I could just say that. I want these teams fit and fighting, when it really counts. And it's kind of a bummer to me that we, get to play a season opener. I think the good thing is at the beginning of the season, if you don't get the result you want, there's plenty of time to make that up. So that's a good thing. But if you remember playing them on the road last year, it was a relatively straightforward affair. Mason Mount with a banger of a goal right before halftime. We held on to that lead and pretty much snuffed them out the entire time. Poor old Salah did not have his best day against Rudiger. And, Mendy didn't really have a whole lot to do. So, I think the one thing that I would be looking for, Brandon, is whether or not Diego Jota is going to play, because I think he's actually pretty dynamic and provides a different threat than Mane does. Because I think him and Salah kind of just ran into a brick wall all last year. Jota is a little more crafty, and I think that could be something that we'd have to potentially look out for.
Yeah, it's going to be, on their day, they can be super deadly. I did watch them end up picking apart Norwich, even though, it took them until right before half. Or I guess maybe it was like 0-0 at half even, and then they kind of turned it on. So, they haven't really hit the blocks just sprinting, I'd say, completely. But we know how good they can be. And coming off last season is a massive fluke. Is only going to help us as they kind of regain their form. I mean, what is nice, Nick, I know you don't like to play these games early, but like Van Dijk's not at full fitness yet. So being able to run at him while he's still trying to get caught up to having an entire season off with a massive injury could potentially benefit us. And one of the shout outs to the Discord, I think it was Jay talking about it. They're saying that, you get a week off in between these matches right now. You're playing Liverpool, you're playing City, and there's no midweek games. If any, and it's kind of the same thing on the back half. Then we play all the hard matches right around January before knockout round. Where last year, remember, we were playing like Man United, Champions League away, City in the cup, Champions League away, City in another cup. And you're just like, this is insane. If you actually lay it out, it's almost as good as it possibly can be, I think. But at the end of the day, Liverpool are a really good team, and Chelsea are going to have to show up. I would say, though, last year getting results, granted they had some injuries, I'm more confident this season, Nick, in our ability, obviously, and it massively comes from that big man up top.
Oh, for sure.
Goals cure a lot of things.
It's a different deal, and it will be fun. The matchup of the game is Big Rom on Virgil van Dijk. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a thing to watch. I was talking to a couple buddies who are Liverpool fans this week, and they're I think a little nervous as one would be if you were facing Big Rom as he's ready to charge. So yeah, I think that is going to be the other interesting matchup down the other side is how do we potentially convert some of these chances that we had against Arsenal that we probably should have put away. Can we be a little bit more clinical? Can we have a few more shots on target than we did last week? I think we had 22 shots and only 6 on target, which is not really where you want to be. So that would be another thing I'm looking out for.
Dan, gut reaction at the end of the day, feeling pretty confident?
Look, I actually think it's a coin flip game. I think we're both really good sides with great coaches and great players, and I think to me, this is both teams back to being on that edge of being elite. And I think you end up walking into a classic here. These are the types of matches that you want to have that the broadcasters just get excited for because they know they can amp the drama up to 11. It's going to be a packed house at Anfield. Last time we played, it was behind closed doors. And so that is going to be another thing that factors in. And, I think one thing maybe before we transition to the 11s is, obviously there was some chanting towards Billy Gilmore that came from the Liverpool supporters, and credit to Klopp and the way that he kind of addressed that and sat down with the Liverpool Pride, their kind of Pride supporters group, to kind of talk about the need for change and what to do and how we should kind of think about it, and kind of admitting, hey, here's things I remember saying as a kid that weren't necessarily okay, and like we have to do better. And it'll be interesting to see if the supporters follow Klopp's lead this weekend. My guess will be is not all of them will, but even if a couple of people's minds were changed by that, it was a really great thing to see from a club and from a manager to be involved in too.
All I take away from that, Dan, is that Billy Gilmore is living rent free in Liverpool's hearts.
Well, he gave them the absolute D in his Man of the Match award a couple of seasons ago, so they still have nightmares. Also, I don't appreciate you humanizing Klopp for the good things he does, because I wanted to bring up the fact that it would have been fun if we had the Lampard Klopp verbal altercation again on the sideline.
Gave it the big one.
Yeah, yeah, you win one fucking trophy and you think you're a big deal, eh? So I'm going to miss
great.
that.
What a terrible accent that
Credit.
was. Boy, that was
Where it's
really
due
bad.
for Klopp at raising society. It can't be easy to lift all those fans, but look, let's not pretend like Chelsea doesn't have a bunch of shit fans in our ranks as well. So again, appreciate him doing better. Anyways, before we get into your ridiculous starting levels, Anthony Taylor. That's right, center official. So that'll be fun. Get exciting fourth official, Craig Pawson. VAR, Chris Kavanaugh.
What is this? The bad news fucking Bears? Jesus Christ.
Is got the band back together.
Aye.
All right, let's go ahead and touch on lineups. Again, we're doing this before the manager's press conferences, so guaranteed to learn something that we wish we would have known before that. But I'll kick it off with Mendy in goal. I'm going to go with Aspie, Christensen, Rudiger is my back three. I've got Reece James, Jorginho, Kante. Chilwell is my middle four. The Mount, Lukaku, Havertz up top. To me, the team really picks itself, assuming everyone is healthy. Nick, what do you think?
I think Mendy, the UEFA Goalkeeper of the Year, will likely play. I feel like that's probably a good thing. I also feel like Cesar Azpilicueta, one of the nominees for Defender of the Year, is going to be there. Christensen, who's been playing very well in the sweeper role. Rudiger, also UEFA Defender of the Year candidate. Reece James, coming off a goal and an assist performance, will play. And N'Golo Kante will make a triumphant return and snuff everything out, probably nutmeg about 4 or 5 people. Jorginho, the UEFA Player of the Season, an unbelievable performance from him. Just tremendous work there, so he's going to play. Ben Chilwell, making a return to the lineup. Shocking, I know. He'll play. Mace, first name on the team sheet for me. Big Rom will play. And then a surprise inclusion, Timo Werner.
Yeah.
If you remember last year, Timo was very, incredibly unlucky all year and, sometimes didn't help himself. But he should have had 2 goals last year. He had one chalked off for a terrible offside call against Liverpool. He absolutely ran their backline ragged. It was a whole different backline, but he played really well against them. So I actually expect him to play on Saturday.
You think it's because they didn't stump up the money for him, so he's still upset at them?
I hope he gets upset and scores some fucking goals. That's what I hope.
All right. Well, reasonable enough. Dan, go ahead and hit your lineup. Obviously, Nick and I only had one change, but I think you just had a little too much kombucha.
Well, I went with the CMP, the copy and paste. That's all you need to do. I mean, what all we've learned about Tuchel is that while he definitely loves to tinker, he also, for matches like these, is probably not going to deviate too much. And so I get the sense for Werner. Like, I actually think that would be an interesting one. Like, really draw the defenders out, really force their fullbacks to play back a little bit, because the challenge of Liverpool is they play a ridiculous high line, and so Werner terrorizing that back line could be really, really interesting, kind of run and rom into some open space. So like I'm down with that. But I went with the Mendy, Azpilicueta, Christensen, Rudiger, James, Kante, Jorginho, Alonso, Havertz, Lukaku, and Mason. I just think he's not gonna mess with the side that won pretty handily against Arsenal, and still needs to gel with that Alonso to Lukaku and James to Lukaku type of rhythm.
But you're bringing N'Golo back. N'Golo didn't play.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh, didn't play because he's kind of he's getting rest minutes.
Yeah,
man. He's Mariano Rivera, man. He's coming out of the bullpen in the 9th inning, closing it down.
You guys, I can't believe you had Kante then Jorginho, and I had Jorginho then Kante. But most importantly, don't act, Dan, like Kai Havertz runs aren't damn good themselves. We saw one in Portugal that was actually really fun. So I get the point. I do like the ability to press their wingbacks because that is key to them. Everything goes through those guys. So we'll have to see, what he does to counter it. But, again, I think we have to be less pragmatic with this team. And I think we're starting to be able to impose ourselves onto teams. And look, I think it's, some pretty non-dynamic midfields going against each other. So everything is that's going to happen, I think it's going to come from around the midfield itself. So from predictions on the score sheet, let's go from worst to best. Nick, you're up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I just kind of think this has draw written all over it. I hope I'm wrong, obviously. Hopefully I'm putting the the negative energy out there so someone else can go clean that up. But yeah, 2-2 draw.
I mean, it's not the worst thing away at Anfield either. Dan, second place?
So I went with a 1-2, Chelsea winning 2-1. No clean sheet, unfortunately.
All right. Well, I will take over that duty. I said it last week. They made me regret it. Liverpool 0, Chelsea 2. Fine. I'll give a clean sheet, damn it. Tuchel, line it up. Even though I think that'd be amazing to shut out one of the best attacks in the league, but we've done it before. So,
well, they keep in mind, like, so our recent run of fixtures, right? After that win last season, prior to that, it was a 2-0 loss, a 5-3 loss, both of the Premier League, the win in the FA Cup, 2-0, but then a Premier League loss, 2-1, the UEFA Super Cup, which we ended up losing on penalties, and then a loss.
So what are you trying to say, Dan?
I'm just saying the recent run versus Liverpool has not been ideal. And so what we did in March is hopefully start a new trend of beating Liverpool into submission again. So let's keep that going. Let's keep the positive vibes happening.
That is correct.
It's called Lukaku. All right, Dan, we've got Lukaku.
Cheat code.
We're safe. All right, one inconceivable prediction that is silly, stupid, and probably a bit outrageous. Damn it, Nick. Why did I build that up the way I did for you to put that?
You're mean, Nick. All I've learned in this episode is that Nick is mean.
I'm not mean. I'm pragmatic. Timo Werner's going to score, damn it. I'm putting it in the world. I'm just on a tear with predictions. So if Timo scores this game, we know that I have something going. That's really all that we have to say about that.
The juice.
Especially predicting that, not even knowing if he's starting yet as well is definitely a big one. I put Kante game winner since I couldn't come up with one last time. So we've seen him on the triple meg against Spurs in the Cup. Might as well add one to the tally against Liverpool. Dan, what about you?
Look, everybody's getting goals. Chalobah has a goal for Chelsea now. Reece James has multiple goals for Chelsea. Kante has goals. Jorginho has goals. You know what? Christensen finally needs his goal. He finally needs a Chelsea goal. So I want that to happen. I want him to get involved. Header on a set piece. Let's go.
Can it be a screamer from like 30 yards out like the Euros?
Sure, I would take that too.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that actually was really fun. I had to do a double take on that and make sure it was Christensen. So that was fun. All right, hey, that's going to wrap up our match preview. But don't worry, we're not done with this episode. No. I sat down with the wonderful man himself at Chelsea Youth, and we talked about 3 matches that Chelsea Youth teams have played at the Academy, and we talked about some transfers out. And I even snuck in his take on what he thought about Trevoh Chalobah staying. So check that out, and we'll be back after that. Chot. Got it.
Cool.
Here we go. So now we don't have to speculate anymore. The season has started. We actually have real minutes being played, Phil. The first one being the Manchester United 1-1 draw for the U23 development squad. I believe that was last Friday. Correct me if I'm wrong. But 1-1 draw.
It was a 1-1 draw. It was at Stamford Bridge. It came off the back of their 2-2 draw to open the season away to Tottenham 4 days earlier. So they've had a pair of really tough opening matches in the PL2. Both matches they led in. Through Harvey Vale's goals. He scored 2 against Tottenham and then 1 against Manchester United, so he's got all 3 league goals so far this season. And it was a really good competitive match, not short on aggression. There was a red card for Josh Brooking in the second half for a tackle that you could have argued for multiple reds, whether it was a denial of goal scoring opportunity or for endangering the opponent, whatever you like. It was a highly justified red, and it came midway through the second half, so there was a challenge for the boys to not just see out a goalless draw, but to try to go and win it, and they were 3 minutes away from doing so. So generally a positive start for them.
Yeah, I was surprised at how competitive that was. Definitely felt like United had a good squad making chances. Again, I think a theme that has been kind of nice through these is some really, really good goalkeeping play from the 23s, and they've been rotating as well. So obviously I'm looking at that side, but to your point, these are real competitive minutes for these guys. They're overcoming adversity. Even, a couple weeks ago with the Tottenham 1-1 draw, I mean, Bergstrom was massive in that match. And to continue to see them rotate players and have consistent, I would say, like, there's bright spots throughout these matches, right? Like, it's not all gas. It's not all brake. It's very much these youth games ebb and flow far more than the men's first team matches.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of teams trying to build not just an identity throughout the club, but trying to educate players on various facets of their game as they go forward. But going back to your mention about goalkeepers, it's been a really good start to the season for a number of players. As you say, Lucas Bergstrom was really impressive in the draw at Tottenham. And then against Manchester United last Friday and against Exeter City in the EFL Trophy this midweek just gone, Teddy Sharman-Lowe made his first 2 appearances for the club. You may remember that he signed last summer from Burton Albion. He was an England under-17 international who'd been sort of on the cusp of Burton's first team as a 17-year-old. He stuck with them for the first half of last season. Made sense. It was obviously still a highly tense pandemic world at the time. He stayed there and played a couple of games in the EFL Trophy for Burton last year, and then returned to Chelsea in the winter transfer window and didn't play again because he was out injured. So we've had to wait a year to see him in Chelsea colours, but his first 2 appearances have been really, really encouraging. He's tall, he's commanding, he's got a presence about him. I don't want to do any disservice to the academy goalkeeping department or the goalkeepers, because they are a talented bunch and they regularly provide high quality players to the England youth setups. And we've seen the likes of Nathan Baxter coming through and Jamie Cumming coming through in the last couple of years and really impressing in the Football League. But you might argue that the goalkeeper has been one of the positions that the academy hasn't been able to churn out consistent quality year on year. Obviously, it's one position, right, when outfielders have the ability to play in multiple positions. But Sharman-Lowe's come in and looks like he's got a little bit of something else about him, and you can see why the club went and got him.
Yeah, and you would be forgiven if you were confused when you see Bergstrom and Sharman-Lowe out on the pitch. They look quite similar.
They are big boys, yeah.
It's probably good that we tell you that they're a little bit different. The next match that we missed was the 7-2 smashing of Spurs for the U18s, and what was best about this, Phil, was the salty tears tweet from Spurs official account, essentially trying to call this one into question, but it was an absolute throttling.
It was a very deserved win for Chelsea, whether it was 7-2, whether it was 10-5, whatever the score might have been through the chances that weren't taken. There could be no doubts that Chelsea deserved to win it. Now, Spurs have the right to feel a little aggrieved. Chelsea were awarded 2 penalties either side of half-time, the first of which was really not a penalty. The second of them, soft, but you've seen them given a little nudge from behind with a player waiting for the contact. And moments later, Tottenham had one of their forwards sent off for a really crude challenge on Jimmy Tariano, and absolutely no arguing about that. The Spurs manager was subsequently booked for the protest, and there was a moment or two where it looked like everyone was about to walk off in protest. There was a 4-minute break that Toriano had a little bit of treatment, but not that long, and then everyone sort of had an impromptu drinks break, and it was quite strange. But yeah, back to the football. Chelsea were dominant in every facet of play. Ronnie Stutter opened the scoring, beautiful counter-attack. Billy G opening the play up from midfield. Brody Hughes coming forward at right back, steering it across, and Stutter adding to his 2 goals from the opening day against West Brom. Lewis Hall scored a couple of penalties. He made his Dev Squad debut against Exeter, which we'll talk about shortly. Tariano scored in the second half. He's playing as a number 10 in this team right now and is a really interesting sort of prospect, upright, left-footed. Someone on my Twitter feed sort of made comment that he resembles Kai Havertz in some of the movements and ways he plays. Obviously, you can look at the physical comparisons and go from there, but he's doing some interesting things. And then they scored 3 late on. Malik Mothersill and Derek Abu both came off the bench to score their first youth team goals, and Edwin Anderson rounded it off late on with a goal that he was very relieved by. He'd missed 3 or 4 big chances throughout the match, but deserved them. He worked really hard up and down both flanks, as he did against West Brom, and we're seeing the best of him and of Toriano already in this first month after they took a little while to settle last year.
Yeah, I was watching back the highlights. I'm glad that they're getting a lot more coverage this season. I think they're continuing to grow on the coverage of the academy teams. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's great that you can either watch the match live for free pretty easily, especially over here in the United States, or catch the highlights and some things like that. So again, the accessibility to these teams is growing and growing, which is, again, I just push everyone to go watch the content as well. Take the names that we're discussing and then go watch them so you can match them to what you see on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. The development squad matches are pretty much always live on Chelsea platforms, so that'll be on the website, on the Fifth Stand app, and on YouTube. And YouTube is a real bonus that they started to introduce in the back third of last season because it's accessible for more people. It's available on more devices, on more televisions, and isn't restricting you to a mobile or a tablet device or to your computer with the website and the app, which yes, you can cast it, but YouTube's much easier and much more accessible. So that's coming along. Whether they have plans to start broadcasting more live under 18 matches is always up and down. It can be on a whim. It can be they'll trial it. They tried it with a game at the back end of last season, and then scheduling issues got in the way thereafter. But all the highlights are always free on the website, which isn't the same for all clubs. So, like you say, the content's there, the accessibility is there for you to take a look at some of the next generation coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think, full commentary as well. So usually Ben Andrews on there with a host of people. So it's a really good product. So just had to pitch that quick. Then an exciting one was the under-23s are back in the Papa John's Cup, right? So they were playing Exeter City? Exeter City?
It's Exeter City, yep.
Because isn't there another
fourth
Exeter?
time. There might be in the lower non-leagues, but it's Exeter City in the Football League, and it's yet another year where Chelsea have been in this competition. So the 5 or 6 years now where they've been drawn into a group with all the Southwest teams. The competition's regionalised, so Chelsea should stand a fair chance of having opponents from London or in and around the Southeast. But once again, they're going off to the Southwest. They're playing Exeter, and then they've got Bristol Rovers in October and Cheltenham in November. Exeter and Bristol Rovers are very familiar foes in this competition. Some trips that the club have done and know how to do very well by now, and they started with a positive result against Exeter. They drew 1 each. The tournament competition rules therefore dictate if the match finishes a draw, you play a penalty shootout for an extra bonus point. Chelsea won that 4-3, and they got 2 points instead of 3 from match day 1, which is obviously better than nothing. They were moments away from having all 3. They conceded a stoppage time penalty, which was unfortunate because they didn't really deserve to do anything but win that match.
Yeah, and Sharman Lowe in goal, again, just pulling it back to that penalty shootout heroics. The big foot save, nothing like going to your left and dangling that foot out to cover the middle, and he got a touch on it. So what I wanted to touch on this one, Phil, is that this provides much, I would say, like more competitive minutes, maybe just like the PL2 or the Dev Squad League, where like they're under serious pressure in this penalty shootout, and you can tell because guys missed, right? If it were just like meaningless minutes or training ground, they would casually bury it, but like they are being experienced to professional and pressurized minutes in this competition.
They are. It varies from team to team and from opponent to opponent. So Exeter themselves gave an opportunity to play a few of their younger players, but they went a little bit stronger than most of their fans were expecting. So it was a good opportunity for a bunch of younger boys at Chelsea to get some of those minutes in. The match itself was quite passive. It almost resembled a pre-season affair, and both the Tottenham and the Manchester United games in the PL2 were arguably more competitive. That's not necessarily going to be the case when they play Bristol Rovers or Cheltenham. But certainly last night's match was a little bit friendlier for the Academy boys. But there was a crowd of just over 1,000 people there, mostly home fans. So when it goes to the penalty shootout, there is pressure on you. And the boys generally did well. Only Brian Fearbember missed from the spot. We'll let him off because he scored the goal during the match. He latched onto a really nice through ball from Xavier Mbuyamba. And it was really nice to see Mbuyamba having a more positive outing after a couple of struggles against Tottenham and Manchester United. We've got mitigating circumstances that he's missed the best part of a year injured. We know that the potential exists and the quality exists of his play, but he struggled in 1v1 battles in those matches, and that's part of the learning curve. He did much better against Exeter, so hopefully we're seeing him come through. And I think Andy Myers also used the match to get more minutes into some of the players who didn't necessarily have a full pre-season. We saw Dion Rankin, who was probably man of the match, get a good outing on the right. We saw Ben Elliott play the 90 minutes in midfield. He didn't use any subs until quite late on, and then he gave Lewis Hall, as we just mentioned, a first appearance at this level. Declan Frith came off the bench for his first outing since pre-season. So as much as these games have been competitive the first fortnight of the season, as many as 12 players didn't really have much football over the summer. So you're trying to get minutes into the legs heading into the international break, and then you'll start to see a more coherent team come together after that.
Yeah, I think just thinking back to that penalty we gave up late, it was just a long ball off the goalkeeper, skipped past a couple guys and you sent on the wrong side of him.
It was unfortunate. It was just Sam McClellan didn't see the guy coming behind him. He's gone to try to clear the ball. The lads just nudged him first. It was the only mistake McClellan made. He's been outstanding at the start of this season. He made his senior debut for Northern Ireland at the back end of last year, flying with confidence. Form, fitness, everything's there. He's an outstanding leader, does all the simple stuff really well, and is exactly the player that you want to be leading a defence that is transitioning away from last year's boys. So you've now got Mbuyamba coming in playing regularly and Bashir Humphrey stepping up from the under-18s on the left side. McClellan's really been outstanding, and you can forgive him that one mistake, I think.
Right, and again, it was like a very kind of like unique situation. But these matches, so are you saying that they're essentially group stage matches right now? It'll go to knockout.
They're group stage matches.
Second half.
Yep, you go into a knockout round. One of them's before Christmas, and then it's you go through the regionalised knockouts until you have a North and a South champion in March or April, and then the final is at Wembley. A few years ago, Chelsea reached the semi-finals of the competition. It's the best that any under-21 team has done. They went on to a penalty shootout against Lincoln and lost in front of 13,000 fans at Lincoln on a penalty shootout. Callum Hudson-Odoi was involved that night. Ethan Ampadu was involved that night. Several players who've gone on to graduate and play in the first team. It's an experience. The competition itself is still controversial among Football League fans. They don't tend to like the fact that under-21 or potential B teams are being put in front of them. So you don't necessarily get the same capacity crowds or high attendances. And some managers treat it with similar disdain. But for the most part, Chelsea have had competitive opponents throughout their runs in this competition.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so those are the matches that have been played, but clearly we still have other news that is going on. On the transfer out side of it, we've got Ike Ugbo has gone to Genk in the Belgian league, correct?
He has, yeah. That's where he spent last season. He was at Cercle Bruges, more of a mid-table team, proved himself with 16 goals, which therefore opened up a range of options across Europe. A move that would probably have been sorted a little bit earlier had everything come together with the asking price and the fees that Chelsea were looking for from him. He was out of contract next summer. So while someone like Lucas Lemaitre from Manchester City was playing in the same league for an arguably a stronger team in Anderlecht, commanded an 11 million fee joining Wolfsburg this summer, Ike was going to be hard pressed to get the same amount of money because of his contract situation, even though they're arguably very similar players. They're both born in 99, I believe, and they played against each other in Youth Cup finals, the Chelsea Man City trilogy, and Ike's been as productive along the majority of his career, but that's just an aside. He's now joining Genk for €3.5 million up front, and I believe there are clauses for more money if they qualify for the Champions League, and there's a 20% sell-on. He'll do really well there. It's a much stronger team, a team that's competing for titles and places in the Champions League. And it's a really nice way for him to bounce back from some doubts early in his professional career. He scored a bunch of goals in the academy, as we know. Won 2 Youth Cups, won 2 UEFA Youth Leagues, but loans at Barnsley and at Milton Keynes and at Scunthorpe didn't really work out. Maybe they were slightly early in his career for him. He's spoken about he didn't necessarily have the right mentality going into those loans, and then took some time working with a one-to-one coach before then going to Roda in 2019-20 in the Dutch second tier. Refound his game, refound his vibe, scored goals, and he's moved to Cercle Bruges last season. Now he's got himself a big move to Genk and a potential Nigeria call-up this season. So really, really happy for him. Another successful academy graduate out there doing his thing.
Yeah, I felt like you had it was a tweet about essentially he's going to feast over there in Belgium. He's going to continue to have a really good time. I mean, to your point, he's already proven himself in that league, and I was just with a better group of players. So it all adds up for, hopefully a really positive thing for Ike in Belgium. And then the other one that we had was Carlos Ziger went out on loan.
Yeah, he's gone to the Slovenian second division, which I don't think anybody expected, especially a couple of Slovenian followers I have. He's gone to Rudar Velenja. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And Quite why, I'm not quite sure yet, but there'll be an opportunity to play there. They were a top tier team until relatively recently, and they were playing Europa League football less than 5 years ago. He was at a point in his career where he needed to play regularly. As we've discussed, we've already got Bergstrom and Sharman Lowe at the development squad. Ethan Wadey is still there as well, so there's minutes for those to go around, and you need to get Carlo out. He had a single game loan spell at Sutton United a couple of years ago on an emergency basis and was outstanding in one FA Cup tie. This is his time to go out and play. He's obviously quite close to home over the border in Slovenia from Croatia. There'll be opportunities for him to impress there. And we've seen that Nathan Baxter started really low down in the English pyramid at the Met Police, admittedly at a younger age, but goalkeepers have a different development curve. Carlo's going out, and the important thing is for him to now play men's football for a season, impress, and go from there. He'll have several loan moves, whether he has a long-term future at Chelsea is up to him as much as anything else. His contract's until 2023, and this is the first step in seeing whether that's going to be extended.
I love that. Yeah, no, great to hear for him as well, kind of spreading his links. He's Croatian, so, Slovenia, being nearby. It's funny. I did another podcast, and it's just the soccer world is so kind of happenstance sometimes. So maybe someone saw him at a youth tournament years ago or this and that, and now they're at a new club and they're like, oh, I'm bringing him in. It's so funny how some of these opportunities present themselves, especially for young players. And at the end of the day, especially in this world, they just need minutes and build some confidence.
Absolutely. I've learned over the years that there is always a connection somewhere, whether it's an agent, whether it's a former player, whether it's an advisor. There's always something to go around. Carlo belongs to the same agency that represents Romelu Lukaku, as far as I'm aware. So he's part of a big stable with a bunch of people who've got connections all over Europe. Looking forward to seeing how he gets on, because I've always rated him as a fairly sound technical goalie. He doesn't have the height that Bergstrom and Sharman Lowe do, but he's been around long enough and proven that he's got enough to have a decent professional career somewhere.
Love it. All right, lastly, I just want to get your thoughts on kind of the link between the academy and the first team side at Cobham. It sounds like Trevoh Chalobah is going to definitely stay at the request of Tommy T. And, we've had Matt talk about it. We've had Chidge talk about it, some different people in the Chelsea community. So it sounds like, that connection is still there. I think you would agree that Trevoh has absolutely earned this opportunity. But I guess just kind of your thoughts on their continuing to be academy players in the first team, because we don't really know what Callum Hudson-Odoi's future is with this squad. We don't know what Ruben's going to be like. Obviously, Ampadu came a little bit later in his career from Exeter, actually. So anyways, just wanted to give you a little bit of a moment on that.
Yeah, I'm really happy for Trev. He's had a good journey out of the academy, went to Ipswich and to Huddersfield and then to Lorient on loan. He's played largely in midfield on those loans, but it was last season at Lorient that he then moved back into defence for more time than the previous clubs, and showed that he can do both of those jobs to a high level. And then obviously it wasn't necessarily by design. He's come into a pre-season with an excess of loanees and first team want-aways and whatever you want to call them, while the senior squad were recovering from the Euros and being on late holidays and whatnot, and he took his chance. And who's to say that other academy players can't take their chance if they're given a similar opportunity? But we'll focus on Trev for now, because he came into the team for the Villarreal game for Crystal Palace. Amazing moment when he scored. And now we wait to see how the club handle him. Tuchel's obviously come out and said he wants him to stay for this season, and he's going to be a part of the squad. We may be seeing Kurt Zouma leave and Jules Koundé come in. We don't know. If Koundé comes in, then you question how many minutes Chalobah is going to get, if only because we've seen him on the right side of the back three so far, and that's the role that you would immediately label Koundé for. Whether they bring in Saul Niguez, because that's a fourth man in midfield that Chalobah could arguably also fill in that spot. I'm optimistic, but at the same time, there's still enough time in this window for moves to be made by Chelsea that would then leave Trevor and his advisors thinking, hold on, is staying around this season really my best bet to continue developing it and for my movement? Because his contract is also 2023, so there's a decision to be made there. I think he's ticked every box so far. Chelsea have 3 or 4 games coming up that are quite tough, and so the fact that he didn't play against Arsenal was a little bit disappointing because, to my mind, none of the Arsenal forwards offered any sort of threat that he would have been unable to deal with or would have found a struggle. But you face Liverpool this week and you might think, okay, right, they're going to play the experienced defenders, the first choices if you were, so Trevor may not play there. Manchester City's not too far after that, and suddenly you're into October and you may have gone 4 or 5 league matches without a game. Optimistic, you can play him in one of those matches and we'll see what happens, but I'd like to have seen a bolder show of faith in him by playing him against Arsenal because he deserved it.
I thought the same thing. That was in my prediction too. He was in my lineup. I felt like, he literally couldn't have done anything more. Granted that Palace were pretty inept in attack, but he still, had to face up against Zaha multiple times and deal with a lot of, I'd say, direct long ball play from them once they got it to midfield because they just ran out of options. But I think as you look ahead to the schedule, it is really tough through September. October, you start to get in the Champions League games. Later in the year, FA Cup kicks in. And so you would hope that there's some rotation. But again, as you and I were chatting about beforehand, as P, Christensen has played on the right, Jules Koundé on the right, Chalobah on the right. We said this with Matt Lobb, like that depth chart, we just went from too many left backs to now too many right-sided center backs, and the balance is wonky. Now, to be fair, Rudiger's a right-footed player who plays in left center back. I could see Chalobah as being like, you know what? There's no one in that line over there. I'll go figure it out. Give me a chance.
He has some experience playing that side through the academy years, and I think he's got quality body control and a trust in his left side to be able to play that role. So it'll be interesting to see if he is somebody that is trusted to play on the left side, because whether Zuma stays or not, whenever you've seen Zuma on the left, his body control isn't quite so much, and he ends up almost being a pressing trap when he's played that side, because he's not going to open himself up and play it back inside. He's always going to be playing it out to the wing back, which is something that Rudiger doesn't do quite so much, and is why he's excelled as the first choice on the left. We don't see Christensen on the left of a back three at all. It's not a role that suits him. So if it isn't going to be Rudiger and none of the others, then maybe that is an opportunity for Trev to get some minutes in rotation.
Yeah, so we'll see how it plays out, but great again to see, obviously Reece, Mason, plenty of guys still in the squad. This is going to be a competitive season, a lot to go. But hey, Phil, really appreciate breaking down what's going on at the academy. I love that we have minutes to analyze now, and that these guys are able to go out there and start to show off their skills, in the under 23s, the 21s, and the 18s. So a lot of football to come, but glad to have you.
Always happy to be here. We're back next week to see how the 18s got on away to Norwich and the 23s against West Ham.
Love it. All right, we'll kick it back to the rest of the guys for the match preview. All right, hope you enjoyed myself talking to Phil, Nick, Dan, gentlemen. Phil is smart, and you should appreciate that.
The authority on anything youth, academy, under 18s, under 23s. There is no other person in the world who knows more than he does, so listen to the man.
All right. Well, like we said, we're going to be back. Plenty of content coming at everyone, Dan. I hope you enjoy sleeping in this weekend. West Coaster.
I know, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to not have to be up at 6:30, right? That's not my ideal for waking up for a Premier League game. But you know what? Credit to the fans who are going to travel and make the trip up there, particularly ones who haven't had a chance maybe to go to a away game in a long, long time. We're excited for you. Sing your hearts out. Be the best that Chelsea has to be, and come back as winners.
I think that is quite the appropriate stance. So that's going to wrap us up. Again, more content to come later in the week. Enjoy your weekends. Up the Chelsea. 3 points is all we need. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.